What is up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching. And today we are doing a draft review on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's jump right into it, guys. So first thing I want to look at is, did they come into this draft with a plan of action? And if you ask me, maybe. Yeah, I think they just took best available player. I don't think there was any true rhyme or reason to their picks. It didn't look like they were really trying to make one position group much better, which is really something that I value very highly. If they were taking best available, I agree with their board in a lot of places. I really do. There are certain points where I didn't understand the pick, but you know, that's to be expected when you have 12 picks. Did they draft an offensive lineman in the first 4 rounds? And yes, they did. For me, drafting an offensive lineman early is so important. To me, it should almost be the first 3 rounds. That's how important it is to me. I make it 4 because that's just a little bit more reasonable. But you can't give me the name of a bad team with a good offensive line. You just can't. It's so hard to be a good team with a bad offensive line. So at the end of the day, I really value taking offensive linemen early and often, and the Jaguars did that, so that's awesome. And then last, did you get a piece of the value in this draft? So the position group that was the deepest, I want every team to take one of them. I think every team should, because that's where the value is. That's where, if you're drafting the 4th round pick, you're probably getting a guy who would have gone 3rd round last year or in the next year. So that's kind of where I value that. That's what I like to look for. And yes, the Jaguars did that as well. They did take a wide receiver in this class, which is of course the depth of the position. So moving on, let's talk about some of the picks that they made. With the 9th pick in the NFL draft, the Jaguars' first round selection, they take C.J. Henderson out of Florida, and this is a guy who I personally didn't believe would be a top 10 pick. I thought this was going to be kind of all smokescreen and fire. I know that it was a pick that was mocked a lot. It made a lot of sense, and it still does. C.J. Henderson is incredibly skilled corner. He is very clearly the 2nd best corner in this class, and he goes to a team that very badly needed a corner. So the fit makes so much sense. But at the end of the day, I just don't know that I saw C.J. Henderson as a top 10 pick. I can get over that. It's not that big of a deal. It's still a good pick. It's still a pick of value. Is it a slight reach? Yeah, kind of. To me, it is. I like him more as in, the 13 to 20 range than I do in that 12 to 8 range that he went in. But, that's very nitpicky, and that's just me being kind of a draft nerd a little bit, I guess. But we'll move on with their second first-round pick number 20. Part of the deal that they got from the Rams, they take Cleavon Chaisson, and I actually did do a draft profile video on Cleavon. If you're interested in that, you can go check that out. And I basically said, he is a fringe first-round pick. I never really watched him and said this is an all-star top 20 pick, and he does to go top 20, but I really feel like this is where his range should have started. I 100% expected him to go before then. So by the definition of a steal or of value, I guess you could say he got good value, because I think everyone expected Cleavon to be off the board at this point. But I think he fell for a good reason. I feel like there were better players that went ahead of him, and I think that's the way it should go, right? So this makes a lot of sense for the Jaguars, because that's a position of need. It makes a lot of sense for where he went, because this to me is the earliest he should have gone. I probably liked him a little bit later in the draft as far as the way I valued the player, but I understand that my value and the NFL's value and the way things actually work are 2 very different things. So I like the pick, I like the player, and I like the fit. So it worked out really well for the Jaguars. And with their second round pick number 42, they take Laviska Shenault, another guy that I do have a draft profile on if you're interested. And this dude's just going to be kind of a utility knife on offense. I think he can do a lot of different things very well. Very explosive player, a good playmaker, and I think if you pair him up with a DJ Shark, you're getting a player, or you're getting a tandem, a wide receiver tandem that can do a lot of different things. DJ Shark can be that true deep threat that Laviska Shenault is not going to be, because he doesn't have the speed, and you're getting a lot of different things from DJ Shark that and you're getting a lot of things from Laviska Shenault that you might not get from DJ Shark, as far as elusiveness and ability to make plays in space. I mean, that's what you're going to get from Laviska Shenault. So it's a really good combination of wide receivers, and I really like the fit there at 42 overall. I think that was a really good pick for the Jaguars to add talent after just cutting Marquise Lee and having kind of an aging receiver core outside of DJ Shark, who they got in the second round, I believe 2 years ago. And with their third round selection, pick number 73 overall, they do take Devon Hamilton, a defensive tackle out of Ohio State, and this dude is essentially a nose tackle, and I actually really love the value for this type of guy, right? So he's a guy that's going to come in and be a space eater in the middle of the field. He's going to be a Calais Campbell light. I'm not going to ever say that he's going to replace Calais Campbell and what he did on that defense, but he's going to play a similar type of role, and I think that's why the Jaguars targeted him. And that type of player, I mean, I feel like there's so much value for that type of guy in the middle of the draft, in that mid-range, and they got him here at 73 overall. I think they got a guy who is going to come in right away and be really big, really powerful, and really disruptive in the middle of that defense, right? It made a lot of sense from the type of guy that they already lost to the Ravens. They traded him to the Ravens earlier in the offseason, and it makes a lot of sense for the player and the fit and the value that they got here in the third round with Devon Hamilton. So I really like that pick as well. As far as my favorite move in this draft, I think they added a lot of talent in a bunch of different spots. Did they draft for need a little bit? Yes, they did. It felt like they were just kind of plugging holes where they could, but they had a lot of holes, and the need matched the value a lot of the times for the Jaguars. So I was really excited. You just go down, especially those first 4 picks. It just made so much sense from a need perspective and from a value perspective on the player. They were never reaching too far for any player. I really believe everyone they got really fit in the range that they drafted him. The only one that I could maybe argue with was Laviska Shenault, maybe going a little bit ahead of other guys that I maybe liked a little bit more on that wide receiver board. But that's one of those nitpicky things that I try not to bring up, because I understand every team has a different board, and I'm not so far off on the value of Laviska Shenault that I think that other players were just an obvious pick ahead of him. So I get that pick for a lot of ways. My least favorite move for the Jaguars was the fact that they did come in with 12 picks. They came in with a lot of assets, and they didn't make any moves to expand on those assets or to better the assets in any way. They just kind of sit and pick. I look at the other teams that had a lot of assets. The Dolphins were able to make a lot of moves at every point in the draft. I mean, they made a move on day 1, 2, and 3, and they had 14 assets, and they had a lot of reason to do that. I feel like if you look at the Dolphins and Jaguars, they have the same amount of needs. I mean, and it made a lot of sense for the Dolphins to do that, and to me, it made a lot of sense for the Jaguars to do the exact same thing. And I was very surprised that they didn't. They could have been the talk of this draft, and they're not, because they really just sat down, made good picks, added a lot of players to their team that I do think are going to be impact players right away, and a lot of depth pieces that I didn't really talk about in this video because I try to avoid talking about 4th through 7th round picks that I really like as well. There were a couple guys that I'm really excited about to see if they can develop into an NFL starter or a fringe type of player. I'm really excited about that. But overall, I think they could have done more. And that's just where I'll leave it there as far as my least favorite move. And then the biggest surprise for me was not trading Yannick Ngakoue, who clearly wants out. He has said publicly that he wants out. And to me, I think players need to understand being too disruptive hurts your draft capital or hurts your trade stock. And when you start to get too disruptive, teams are just kind of get into a position where they can't trade you because they know the value of the player, and every other team knows that they have to come down. So it just becomes this waiting game, and you just wonder who's gonna budge. And I expected Yannick Ngakoue to be a draft day trade. I really did. I expected some team to offer maybe a 2nd round pick and then another 2nd round pick next year, and for that to be a game changer for each team, right? The Jaguars unload a player that doesn't want to be there, and it's unfortunate because Yannick Ngakoue is such a talented player. He's one of the top 10 defensive ends in the league. I really believe that. He gets no credit because he plays in Jacksonville, and he doesn't get a lot of media attention, a lot of buzz nationally, but that's just the facts of life when you play in Jacksonville. That's just the way it goes. But as far as talent, he absolutely has it. And any team that I think there's a lot of teams you could find that would be willing to spend that kind of draft capital on a guy who can be an instant playmaker on your team. So I think it would have worked out really well. I'm surprised that it didn't happen. I guess I get it. I guess I get that maybe I shouldn't have expected a trade like that to go down. But all right, all in all, guys, I'm going to give their draft an A-. I like the players they picked. I wish they would have used their assets in a better way or in a more creative way than they did, as opposed to just dropping down, as opposed to just sitting and picking on every single pick. I was a little bit surprised by that, as I already said, and that's why it's not a higher grade for me. But all right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Check back on the channel for more videos coming soon. I am doing a draft review on every single team. It is a long process, so bear with me, guys. If you don't see your team on there now, it is coming. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the Jacksonville Jaguars draft, where I was wrong, what I missed, things like that. Let me know, guys, and check back soon, guys. Peace.